Welcome back to Book Break. I'm really excited to talk about one of my favourite book themes in this video, time travel and time loops. I am a time travel mega fan, so it took me so long to narrow down my choices for this video, and I still have a really big stack here, so don't get cross with me for leaving any off. It was a really difficult job, but of course do write in the comments if you have any favourite time travel books of your own that you would like to recommend to other people and to me, because I will definitely read them. I'm going to start with a brand new book that I'm really excited to talk about. This is Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel. You may know that name. She is the author of Station 11 and The Glass Hotel, and she is fantastic. And this book has a really interesting structure. It starts in 1912 when a young man rambles through the woods and meets a mysterious man called Gasbury Roberts. The next section jumps to a century later, so roughly our present day, and the same Gasbury Roberts makes a mysterious appearance. Then in the next section, we jump further into the future to the year 2203. Humans are now living on the moon, and this section is about a young novelist called Olive who is going on a book tour around planet Earth. And, you guessed it, Gasbury Roberts makes another appearance. At last, we jump one more time into the distant future and we learn the story of Gasbury Roberts. So he is born towards the end of the 24th century, and this is where the time travel aspect of the book really kicks off. So the book has taken us forward through these layers of time and then takes us back through those same layers. It's very cool. Next, for something totally different, how about a time travel romance? So in One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston, August and Jane meet on the subway, and August is instantly swooning over the gorgeous, enigmatic Jane. But she then discovers a pretty big hurdle getting in the way of their romance. Jane is actually lost in time. She is from the 1970s and she has become displaced in time and stuck on the subway. This is from the same author as Red, White and Royal Blue, so unsurprisingly it is a very sexy, very big-hearted, warm romance about time travel. The Redemption of Philip Thane by Lisa Byrne is a Regency time loop novel, so this is Groundhog Day meets Bridgeton. Philip Thane is a lovable rogue. He has never had any trouble getting the ladies to fall for him until he meets Margaret Allen, who seems completely immune to his charms. But honestly, that is the least of his problems, because Philip Thane has found himself stuck in a time loop. He is living the same day over and over again, and he still can't get Margaret Allen to be interested in him. Opposite of Always by Justin A. Reynolds is another time loop romance, but this time with a darker edge, and also this one isn't just limited to one day. The book starts when Jack and Kate meet at a party and we follow their romance. We see them meeting each other's friends, we see them falling in love, and then Kate dies. And from that moment, Jack is sent back in time, all the way back to the beginning of their romance, to live it all again and see if he can change Kate's fate. The First 15 Lives of Harry August by Claire North is a time loop novel that lasts a whole lifetime. So every time Harry August dies, he is sent all the way back to the beginning of his life to live it all again. No matter what he does differently, he finds himself waking up right back at the beginning. And it isn't until his 11th deathbed that a young girl appears asking for his help sending a message. And so from this point we get a really interesting sort of time travel where it turns out there are a few other people stuck in these time loops and they work out a way to communicate with each other, sending messages every time any of them are sent back to the beginning again. It turns out there is a terrible future waiting for humanity, and it might be that Harry August is the key to our fate. I honestly don't know how I got this far through a time travel video before mentioning Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshigazu Kawaguchi. This is my favourite time travel series. There are 2 out so far and 1 more coming later this year. And these books are set in a time travelling cafe in Tokyo. The time travel in these books is really interesting because it's so limited. So this cafe will help you time travel, but only in a very specific way. There is a particular chair you have to sit in. You can only go back to the cafe. So if you want to visit someone, they have to have visited the cafe at that point. And you have a short window of time travel because the process starts when the waitress comes and pours your coffee, and you must return to the present day before your coffee gets cold. Otherwise you become a ghost haunting the cafe, and it's a whole thing. Recursion by Blake Crouch. I loved this book. It is very complicated to explain, so let me give it a go. At first, it looks like there is a new disease sweeping the globe. People are suddenly waking up with memories of whole lives they never lived. They find themselves grieving for spouses, homes, jobs, children that never existed. So that's already scary enough. But there is more going on here than meets the eye. It turns out that these other lives did exist, but endless time travel loops are wiping them out and sending the world into total chaos. And while I'm on the theme of alternate realities, The Heavens by Sandra Newman is a very, very different kind of book from Recursion, but it does share that idea of parallel lives. This one's a kind of butterfly effect style of time travel. So it starts in present day, but not quite the same as our world. Everything is slightly more utopian. Ben and Kate meet at a party and fall in love, but Kate starts having these strange dreams where she travels back to the past and lives in Shakespearean England as Amelia, the dark lady of Shakespeare's sonnets. And every time she wakes up, her actions in the past of her dreams have altered the present day. But we see her in the present day from Ben's perspective, so she seems to be increasingly losing her mind, mourning this world that, as far as Ben is concerned, never existed. That one's a little sad, so I'm going to pivot to something very funny, Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency by Douglas Adams. Douglas Adams is no stranger to time travel. You'll find it throughout his most famous series, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but even more so here. Dirk Gently is an eccentric private investigator who relies on pizza and time travel to save the world. The Merchant and the Alchemist Gate is a novella in the collection Exhalation by Ted Chiang. It's about a merchant in medieval Baghdad who stumbles across a gateway to the future and learns all about the people who have travelled through it to meet their future selves. And then he learns there is also a gateway that takes you to the past, and it is that gateway that he travels to in order to rectify a mistake he made 20 years before. The Psychology of Time Travel by Kate Masquerine is so much fun. This is a time travel, murder mystery, queer romance, so many genres blended into one, and I loved it. So in the 60s, 4 female scientists invent a time machine, but it causes one of them to have a breakdown. In 2017, we meet Ruby, the granddaughter of the woman who went mad, as she gets a message from the future warning of the violent death of a woman that's going to take place in the following year. And we then jump back and forth between 2017 and the following year when a woman has been found in a room, she's been shot, the room was bolted only from the inside. And there are loads of time travel-y puzzle pieces to fit together to figure out who this woman was and what happened. The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton is another time loop one and another murder mystery. So our main character, whose identity we don't know, wakes up in a body he doesn't recognise. He has come to a manor house on the day when Evelyn Hardcastle is going to be killed, and he has to live that day over and over, each time in the body of a different person who was there, in order to solve the mystery of her death. And disclaimer, you will need a notebook and a pen and multiple post-it notes and probably pieces of string to plot out what is going on at all times. I'm going to finish with 3 time travel classics that just had to be in this video. Kindred by Octavia Butler is about a young black woman called Dana who keeps being thrown back in time from her life in 1970s California back to a pre-Civil War Maryland plantation where she meets a young freed black woman and a young white boy from a family of slave owners, and they turn out to be her ancestors. Each time she's sent back in time, she finds them a little bit older, a little bit further along in their story, and the horrors of slavery entangle her a little more tightly. So it's a very, very grim fantasy and an incredible use of time travel. The Time Traveller's Wife by Augie Niffenegger, possibly the first time travel book that I read and fell in love with the genre. This is a romance between Henry and Claire, who have met at multiple stages throughout their lives. So Henry first meets Claire when he is a young man, and somehow she already knows a lot about him. That is because Henry is a time traveller, and the older version of himself has been sent back in time to visit the younger Claire many times. So she has known him pretty much her whole life. I really like the way time travel works in this book. It's totally out of Henry's control when he time travels or where he's going to be sent. And I also really liked the way that nothing can be changed when he is traveling in the past. It's all already happened, and so we see these impossible loops of causation with no beginning. And finally, a proper classic, The Time Machine by H.G. Wells, which is a sci-fi novella from 1895. It's very science fiction. The time machine takes our protagonist to the future, to the age of a dying Earth, where he meets these new species descended from humans called Eloi and Morlocks. The book is actually an exploration of class and inequality. The different species are descended from the upper and lower classes. And I think most interestingly of all, H.G. Wells is actually believed to have invented the term time machine. So do let me know in the comments below your favourite time travel books. I'm always looking for more recommendations like this, and I will link here to a video that we made before on the best quirky fantasy books if you're looking for something else a bit unusual. So do click through and have a watch of that video, and I'll see you next time.